We're going to call Drainage Board meeting June to order. Mr. McConnell's going to lead us in prayer and follow the pledge.
Father in heaven, I know it's a strange thing to ask at a Drainage Board meeting, but we sure could use a little rain. Just a little bit would be very nice, and we pray that you grant that to us to help keep the flowers going and the earth beautiful and the soil fertile. Thank you, though, for all of those blessings that you've given us, that you continue to give us. Please give us the guidance that we need to work for your people and to make all the best decisions in the best interest of all the people. As always, we ask that you look over our brothers and sisters in uniform who are protecting us tonight, whether they be here or in faraway land. Please look after them, put your hand on their shoulders, and bring them home to their families safely and soon. And we ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Heather, let it be known that Mr. Jared Barger is absent. He called me earlier. He's tied up at work in New Orleans. And Ms. Cheryl Fontenot is out. Public comment section. Anybody wanting to speak on an agenda item, please sign in. Sign up cards, sheets up front. You have a 3-minute time to speak. Number 4, acceptance of minutes of May 1st, 2006.
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. Move on to number 5, Parish President's Report. No report tonight?
Bill's going to give it doing
Okay.
different things.
We'll move on to number 6, and Department of Public Works Report. Bill Root.
Good evening. Begin with, we have the books. In fact, Ray, why don't you give these up? We're handing out the weed control master books for each council member. It has every road that we maintain in the order that we maintain them and an update up to present. After this time, what we ask you to do is we'll send you the updates per month, usually a Drainage Board meeting. And probably prior to the Drainage Board meeting, we ask that you take your book, use this to update your own book so you know exactly where we're at. And at any point in time, you can refer back to that book. And if somebody's asking you a question about a certain road in your district, you can refer back to this book and see what was done prior to that date. And, of course, like always, look through it. If you have any question, we'd be glad to answer it tonight. If not, tomorrow or later this week, at your pleasure. We've got a couple of update reports tonight, which I'm going to include toward the end of my report. One would be by CDM, and the other would be by Burke Kleinpeter. Both of them has to do with CDM on these 2 projects they're involved with right now, and Burke Kleinpeter on the project, the pumping station evaluation, and they'll give a brief update, a status update on both of them at the end. Just to let you know some of the things that's happening, of course, there's been some issues with Stafford Heights and also the Burat Ditch. We finally completed a survey of that ditch, the land, I guess, south of Abbey James Road along the Burat Ditch. And because of the results of the survey, we're going in there and going to start the project doing some upgrade of that ditch, beginning at Abbey James, going south. We do have one little section of land that we're going to have to go a little bit further with right-of-way. And while we're clearing that up, we're going to actually start the project, start doing some cleaning of that ditch now while we're waiting to clear up that one little section of right-of-way. And I'd rather not get into it any more than that right now. We're going to be talking to that landowner, but also our attorney, and seeing where we go. So just to let you know, we are going to move some equipment in there and do some preliminary work right now. Permit of Black Bayou, it seems that we're going to have to, or it's part of our permit process. We have given notice to the Corps of Engineers that we're going to proceed with some type of work on Black Bayou, beginning of Black Bayou Road and going upstream. We have given them notice, so we're going to proceed probably tomorrow and continuing that maintenance, cleaning, and shaping of Black Bayou. So we're going to start back on it in the morning, probably.
Bill, I got a question
Yes.
for Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
If we could back up just a minute there, Bill.
Yeah.
On the Abbey James ditch. Just to let everyone know, we're having some flooding problems on the west side of 44. And before we get started too much on that Abbey James side, we need some cleaning on the west side, from Joe Severio, the Boudreaux Bayou, and the Marty Burat ditch. So we don't want to stack too much water on the west side. We're doing all the cleaning on the Abbey James side. I know those folks need some relief over there, but we need to get relief on the west side first.
The main thing we're going to be doing is doing a little clearing of debris that's in that bayou right now, or that ditch, and also clearing the right-of-way along the side of it. So when we're ready to get in there and do a more substantial cleaning, a more substantial project, the preliminaries will be done. The right-of-way will be cleared. There's quite a number of large trees along portions of that section, and we want to have all of that out, ready to go, so we can get in there and do some more maintenance cleaning and enlargement if we need to do it at that point in time.
We just need to balance it.
That's
all I'm
right.
looking
And
for.
the other thing about that ditch is the fact that we're anticipating the work being done by the Keystone subdivision in improving Henderson Bayou below where the this ditch and a couple other laterals come into Henderson Bayou. We're expecting that work will improve the situation upstream of both Henderson Bayou and this ditch, the Burat ditch.
Okay.
And they have started some work on that subdivision, and we're waiting to see how that proceeds and the results of that work. We're anticipating that it will relieve some of the pressure, because Henderson Bayou, that is part of the unimproved section of Henderson Bayou through the Duval property that we never did get to, and this development will make those improvements. It should help the situation.
Bill, while we're on that, at Highway 44, the coverage large enough to handle that? Aren't we getting a bottleneck right there?
Not from our analysis. I think CJ might have a comment about it, but every time we've seen it, we didn't have that much of a differentiation between the two sides, which if it was a bottleneck, you should see some type of difference in elevation on both sides. It looked like it was pretty spread out on both sides. And also, we are going to be replacing a bridge. If you remember, Councilman, on that ditch south of, I think, or between the two crossings of Merritt Evans, I think. So that should help out some, too, the replacement of that bridge, and elevate it higher so we have more distance volume underneath.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, I agree with what Dempsey's saying about he's got flooding problems over there now, and if we do too much on my end along Abbey James and Parker Road, relieving those areas, Stafford Heights, his flooding that he's got now, it's just going to be that much worse. So we want to start at that lowest point, cleaning the restrictions out along the way. But I appreciate you getting on that. It's an issue that's got to be addressed, and I know these things take time, but we got people. In fact, we got people here tonight that's concerned about it, and folks that have flooded again recently. So.
The biggest thing, Councilman, on this particular spot, which is directly south, immediately south of Abbey James Road, is the one section that actually has debris in it that we were not able to clear out. And our initial work will be to clear a right-of-way along the side, heavily wooded area, but also to get in there and clean the debris out and not do a whole lot of work on enlarging the ditch. It's mainly to clean the debris from prior rain events, and it's causing a little bit of problem.
So we're not relocating the ditch.
Not at this time. Not at this time. We're going to be cleaning it to make sure there's no obstructions until we can look at the whole situation and get a little bit more done south, like you just suggested.
Okay.
So we're not going to do a whole lot about enlarging it, just doing the preliminary work.
Mr. Samuel.
And Bill, that is that's addressing the Stafford Heights
The
area?
Stafford Heights situation. We're also doing a project or looking at a project within Stafford Heights itself for the subdivision roads and the subdivision ditches, culverts, and we're looking at going in there and doing an evaluation, actually resurveying all the road ditches and the inverts of the culverts to make sure everything's in line and all your drainage structures within the subdivision itself along the road is adequate. And I think I'm looking at finding some problems in that, in the actually the road ditches. And I think once we find out what the problems are and do a design of upgrading the road ditches as far as the culverts, driveway culverts, I think that may relieve some of the problems within the subdivision. You know, heavy rainfall is stacking up within the subdivision. At least that's our hopes.
But you're talking about you went and inspected some of the larger laterals around that area. You found some serious debris.
Well, we have
could be some problems.
the main ditch itself has a certain section we have no right-of-way on, and we weren't able to get in there and clear some debris out because of that.
Okay.
But we can access it hopefully through another means, other property,
Todd, just
and be able to do something with that.
There could be a serious bottleneck right there.
There caused some bottleneck, and how much, I'm not sure, but it needs to be cleaned. There's some debris in it that needs to come out.
Okay.
Mr. Helens back.
Yeah, and Bill, back to that Highway 44 box culverts, there are some restrictions there as well, and that needs to be cleaned there.
Again, we're looking at, we took elevations, and we're looking at the whole situation and seeing exactly where the bottlenecks are. But it's still under evaluation at this time.
Okay, Bill, continue with your report.
Okay, again, going back to the permit on Black Bayou, we are going to proceed with that tomorrow, and we're also going to go ahead with the re-permitting, not actually the new permit, applying for a new permit for Black Bayou, and maybe even some areas of other major bayous like the Goudin, so we can get in there and do some cleaning of some other major bayous. So that's going to be ongoing. We also have a list, it was requested, and we have the list of rainfall totals. Did you have, let's see, Heather, you have that? Is it in your packet, or you have it?
Packet.
Y'all have a copy of that in your packet, I think? Okay. And this is a rainfall totals at different points throughout the parish through the last event. And this is for your review. And we welcome any kind of comments on it. And if you have any questions, of course, we'd be glad to answer it either tonight or at a later date. Again, this is for your review.
Bill.
Yeah.
While we, before we move on, Mrs. Fontenot got with me. We need to look at the section from Southwood to Babin Road to Goudin. They got some, I think she went through there with a boat, and there's a lot of obstruction in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just some grubbing, not so much, digging. It's just a grubbing area. So
What we intend on
I don't
doing
know if
is
y'all have that on the list. She would
Yes.
ask me to get it put on the list.
what if you, and again, if you look at the, or not again, if you look at your the agenda for tonight, you'll see where item number 9, we're going to be requesting for you to approve actually a marsh machine, which is the on pontoons, the grade all, and actually a machine with able to dig and shred structures throughout the middle of the bayous. And this is locations like this is the ideal situation for using this machine, which we can go through and take all your grubbing and clearing of inside the bayous without touching the land, which means less permitting and less problems, and you can clear the debris throughout all the bayous.
Sounds
So
good.
that's all. We're going to look at all the areas and get in there and do a lot of this work soon. We can obtain, hopefully, if you give us permission to purchase this piece of equipment. That's what we're going to do with it.
Thank you.
So, again, you have the list of rainfall totals. We also have a list, actually a map. And CJ, we have 3 large copies now. We're just going to kind of hand it out to you to look at. We have smaller copies we're going to be printing out for you on the list of ditches, major drainage ditches that we want to include into our major drainage system. It should have on there, I didn't review it closely, but it should have the ditches that's already in our major drainage system. And it would also have the ones we propose to put in. We're going to send you a shorter copy of this, smaller copy, with all the database of exactly what the ditches, where the ditches are. It's what we're asking tonight is to give us, we will ask tonight under old business, to give us permission to send a letter to the State Department of Public Works, DOTD, for inclusion of these ditches into our major drainage system. Now, it's nothing to be said that it can't be amended or changed, but at least this gives us permission to get the process working. We could add more ditches. The problem with some of these laterals, we numbered them according to a system, but sometimes if you're looking at it on a map, you really don't know they have common names, and we can talk to individual councilmen on exactly where some of these ditches are.
You want to bring that up on the old business?
Yes, sir. I want to bring that up on the old business, just giving us authorization to proceed to the next step.
Okay. Any questions on the map?
And again, we'll proceed with that. Now to help the department out in clearing some of these ditches and gaining extra right-of-way and servitude on it. It should help the situation out throughout the parish. Right now, unless it's, yes.
I have a question.
Bill, where we at with the grubbing and clearing Panama and Conway?
We tried to actually get in touch with the NRCS this afternoon to get an update from them. We tried to contact them a week or so ago. They were going to get back with us. We haven't heard anything from them. CJ tried to call them this afternoon. We still have not had a response. We wanted a report for you tonight, and we were unable to get it.
Put that on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'd like to have them here to give us a report where we at with that project.
We'll request somebody here or the contract, one or the other, for the next meeting.
CJ, can you give me a contact number? Also, we'll try to call them.
Okay, Bill.
Unless there's any more questions right now, I'd like to call up CDM, representative for CDM, to give a brief report. Okay, real quick.
Bill, we had the weed report, and I don't know if you could just pass this on. We had a report to send in to clean to cut the ditch behind off of 44 across from Pelican Point, the one behind those houses there, and they came out and they cut, and then apparently they had stopped about halfway because they ran across that area that they stopped and couldn't get across, and the people are requesting that they continue on and do the rest. So
They're still in the area today.
right. So
And,
that's why I wanted to make sure and
We'll
let you know.
I'll pass that along to them tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because they had stopped and they complained about that.
We'll work that out.
Mr. Thompson.
Bill, update on Fife subdivision. What we doing with the drainage back there?
Okay, we're going back, and like I said, we had some issues with it back when we talked several weeks ago, months ago, really, on it. Right now, what we're trying to determine is the major problem with Fife subdivision backwater out of Bayou Francois causing it, or is it just pure rainfall within the subdivision, it being somewhat in a bowl, parts of it? Because that's going to have a lot to do with how we're going to solve the problem. We haven't been able to determine that yet, and we're still working on it. The main reason is, if it is purely or for the most part backwater flooding off of Francois, then it's possible that we can do some floodgates or some minor levying in that direction to keep the water from backing up into Fife subdivision. However, if the flooding situation is caused by just rainfall in the subdivision itself, but then that's a little bit different issue. Most of the drainage in that subdivision, or the bad part, is really road ditch drainage. So now that falls into a whole different little scenario, road ditch drainage compared to outfall drainage or major drainage. If it is determined that it is purely road drainage, where the culverts and drainage ditches and other things need to be improved, that's a different story. So we don't want to overreact on this. We don't have that information. It wasn't in the original report, or really what was causing the problem. And if it is a backwater flood, I think that's something that we may be able to prevent, by just some fairly simple methods. Floodgates, they've got a couple of main ditches, outfall ditches coming into it from the corner view area, the old ballpark and everything, coming through that area. We can possibly put some floodgates or something to prevent that. And that's what we're trying to determine right now.
So once we do that inside the city limits, who's going to maintain the floodgate?
Oh, we will. The drainage board is responsible for that.
Are we maintaining the flap?
We're
gates
maintaining
that we
the
have
flap
now?
gates. We had some problems with them. We had a few of them that was in disrepair several years ago. Floodgates are the type of thing that you constantly have to monitor because things get caught up in them or they get rusted, they get jammed for whatever reason. So we periodically have to go in there and do a little bit of maintenance on it. But we are responsible.
Todd, would you make sure that's on the next agenda, next meeting update? Thank you.
Just have to make sure you have it on. Mr. McConnell.
Well, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on some of the things that Bill was saying and what Mr. Thompson was requesting, because I've walked back there in that 5 subdivision quite a bit, trying to find out the problem with their water. And as I always understood it, in the back of 5 subdivision, there's a wetlands back there, and that's where all of that water drains. It drains away from New River Bayou. But then once it ties into that wetlands, I don't think it goes back to Francois. I think it goes in that great big culvert, which then comes out onto New River, right by Cheryl Fontenot's mother's home, right there on New River Street. And when New River gets high, it closes the flap on that big drain pipe. The water can no longer get out, and then it's a rainwater backup, as I understand it. So I'll be curious and eager to see if you can find out how it's somehow getting back to Bayou Francois, but I don't believe that it is. I think when you finish your investigation, I think you're going to find that it doesn't go back to Francois, but that would be a good solution if we could somehow get it back over there.
And if you think back, if the ditch that comes through Gonzales, it actually comes through the old ballpark next to Corner View, comes down Corner View, and crosses over. And actually, the old I forgot the name from the old Corner View where the nursing home is. Mm-hmm. That little subdivision back up in there, which is right opposite 5 subdivision. The ditch actually goes through there.
It's called Bayou Estates.
Right. It actually goes through there and goes into that slough that you're talking about behind 5 subdivision. So there's actually, the water can get into it through that ditch. That's where that ditch actually goes, to that low area, swamp area through there. And it is coming back that way some when Francois rises up to a certain elevation. And we want to know exactly how much of a problem that is. Is that causing part of their problem where the water can't get out because that water level is high? And we can block it off and maybe cause a storage area in that swamp for their water to go to until everything subsides. Or if it's just a combination of both, and the only thing we can do is pump it out. Again, we don't want to overreact and put something there that we could have solved a lot cheaper. And that's the reasoning behind it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. If no other questions, again, I'm going to ask now a representative from CDM to give a report on their status of the 2 projects that they're managing right now.
Hello. I'm going to report on Henderson Bayou Basin, the study we're doing there, and the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension preliminary engineering project. First on Henderson Bayou, we were issued notice to proceed on May 3rd, almost a month ago exactly. We've now nearly completed Task 1, which is data collection. The subsequent tasks rely heavily on Task 1 before we can really begin. Of note, the design team, we were led on a boat trip on Bayou Henderson on May 17th. I want to thank, actually, Alan Allred, Councilman Berger, Dempsey Lambert, Todd Lambert, and Mr. Mitchell Epps for accompanying us. It was very helpful. I thought we got to see firsthand topography and kind of the lay of the land, and hear some of your own, kind of personal, I guess, anecdotal information, historical information. I think it was really helpful. I really appreciate that. I can go into a little more detail of the data that were collected, but I think what's most important is that the one issue that we have on data collection, which is keeping us from really wrapping this data collection task up, is the Army Corps of Engineers Amite River and tributary study. They've got a modeling effort which I understand is close to completion. The model data are going to really help us understand a little better what we need to do. So as soon as we have that, we'll be able to wrap up data collection and give a task memorandum summarizing that and completing that task. On the Laurel Ridge levee extension project, we were also given notice to proceed on May 3rd, and we are also nearly complete with the data collection task, probably 90% complete. There are a couple of things that are outstanding on that data collection task. Primarily the Amite River and tributary study, which is going to help determine the design conditions of the new levee. It's an important piece of the puzzle. As soon as the Corps has that done, we'll, looking forward to that pretty eagerly. The other is any available roadway geotechnical data, and I think that we've requested that of the department. I'm not sure if Dennis Babin will be able to produce any data if they do exist, but if they do, that'd be very helpful to give us a better idea of what conditions to expect out there. Last week, on the 31st, we met with representatives of the Corps of Engineers to discuss their progress on the Amite River and tributary study, and also to discuss preliminarily regulatory concerns, permitting, any issues that they foresee. The Corps, we met with Mr. Robert Barlow, I think who has a good history with Ascension Parish, to get his thoughts on permitting issues, regulatory issues, etc. One of the things that was very helpful was that they agreed to kind of go along with us as we develop alternative routes and comment and evaluate those routes with respect to permittability, which will be very helpful. And also, we got some pretty clear guidance that it is a permittable project, which of course is encouraging. The concerns that we have to address in permitting the project are avoiding impacts, minimizing those impacts which are unavoidable, and then mitigating. So that will be kind of the method by which we evaluate the alternative routes. Any questions?
Thompson.
The Corps give you an estimated timeline of how long it's going to take for them to finish this?
The study? They're supposed to be done with it now, but we'll see. It's actually in the hands of the consultants that are doing the work, and I think we probably could go directly to them.
What consultant firm is doing that?
I believe Shaw is the prime on that.
Mr. Sable.
Yeah, did I hear you correct that you met with the Corps, talked about the permitting of Henderson Basin improvements and Laurel Ridge levee, and that was a permittable project that was on the table?
Right. I mean, their take is, anything is permittable, provided as an agency you take the proper steps to demonstrate that you avoided environmental impacts, that you minimized any unavoidable impacts, and that you mitigate. And the cost of doing those, obviously, is the determining factor for anything permittable.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
I got a question.
Mr. Hill is back.
Yeah, and when you're talking about mitigating, a lot of that property over there is hardwood wetlands. It's going to have to be mitigated, and I just believe that the cost is going to become a factor when you start mitigating hardwood wetlands. I think the cost in Sanama alone now is going for $45,000 an acre, and it's been my understanding or information I had was that the Corps was going to look at this on a cost-benefit analysis, under a cost-benefit analysis, and good chance was that it would not be approved. So they're saying now that they will go forward with the project? Have they told you that they would permit the project?
Oh, no. Their take at this point is that there's nothing unpermittable about it.
Right. Because, excuse me, I know there was an article in the Advocate Sunday of last week talking about such a scenario of a hurricane coming up through Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas and hitting eastern side of Ascension Parish. And, of course, it's been recommended that we need to do this project to protect, Ascension from the floodwaters from they meet. But their remedy in the article, and I understand that this is being studied and looked at by the Pontchartrain Levee Foundation, is the floodgates down at the Wrigley's. And, of course, that's the answer on a regional basis and would cost Ascension Parish a whole lot less money than what was originally proposed, which I think this levy we're talking about came out around $13-14 million. So do you have any insight on that?
I'm not quite sure what exactly you might be asking, but I think it's fair to say that the cost is going to determine what you're going to do.
Right.
I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Thank y'all. Bill, you got something?
Nothing else on that. Yes, I have several other things.
Okay.
One of which, representative of Burt Kleinpeter is here to give you a brief status report of their project, which was the evaluation of the pumping station, I think.
Good evening. I'm Henry Picard with Burt Kleinpeter. We've been tasked with modeling the lower reaches of Bayou Francois, Black, and New River in order to look at the existing pumping capacity and the potential for dredging out the canals. We are in the data collection process of the study where we have gotten a portion of the model from the Corps. They're in the process of putting together the rainfall portion and the hydrology portion of the model to give to us. That's an important part because what our first task on this project after we get the data collected is to calibrate the model with the Hurricane Rita event. We have downloaded the data from the U.S. Geological Survey sites. We've gotten data from C.J. Godin regarding the level loggers that are available from the Parish data, and we're getting some additional data from him on that. And the intent is to calibrate the system based upon the the Hurricane Rita event, which is pretty much a classical 10-year event as far as the rainfall amount. Once we have the model calibrated, we can then do what we call the what-if scenarios, to where we look at a combination or a series of improving the channel, approaching the pump station up to the limit of the pump station's current capacity, or improving the channel and then seeing what improvements at the pump station are needed to apply for that or maintain that channel and the outfall coming. So that's where we're at. We're in the very early stages. We anticipate this study to be about a 4-month period, and we're about a half a month into it right now. If you've got any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Henry? Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to mention a couple of things that may be of interest because what came up in the last Drainage Board meeting or last couple of Drainage Board meetings. One of which is Bayou Grand. We have looked at the main ditch lateral coming off of Goudin goes through Bayou Grand. We're evaluating the cross drain under that main road going into Bayou Grand. It looks, at first we thought maybe just an upgrade of that drainage structure would be would help relieve some of the pressure, but under looking over a more detailed evaluation, when it crosses or overtops that road, it also at the same time overtops Tigger Duplessis Road, would lead us to believe that it may be more to it than just replacing that one culvert. So we're back into it now, looking at that whole situation. As part of that whole thing, too, we're actually writing a letter trying to get DOTD to at least allow us to dig under the 621 bridge, Bayou Goudin 621 bridge, just about at that location, to give it more volume for the water to pass under. We doubt if they'll give us that permission because of safety reasons. But we also going to recommend them replacing that bridge with a larger structure to allow more water to get through it. So we're in that process. In any case, it should help the Bayou Grande area, that ditch. But we're looking at possibly more work in Bayou Grande and actually east of Bayou Grande with that whole basin that drains into this outfall. So this is ongoing. We are involved with it. We are looking at some solutions to that. We're also looking at, on Highway 621, we're involved with negotiations now with several entities on removing lines on the Bayou Northeast crossing of Bayou Northeast Road. There's a lot of, well, the bridge itself is in need of replacement. The way the pilings are skewed at that location causes a lot of debris to be built up and dammed off, causing a lot of problems. It actually needs to be enlarged at that location. It never was. However, there's a lot of utility lines, water, telephone, sewer, actually, I think, and some other things going through there. But we're actively involved in trying to resolve those issues so we can get that moved and hopefully get that bridge replaced and get better drainage through the Bayou Northeast bayou through that area. We also are trying to find ways of getting better at finding locations of bottlenecks along all our bayous, locations that's hard to get to, but may have debris plugging up the bayous. We're going to go in there and on either by four-wheeler or whatever means possible to resurvey all of this. We did it right after Rita, most of the areas, but we're going to go back through it again. And we may even go as far as renting a helicopter to actually get above and get a real detailed look, pictures of from above at some of the hard to reach areas and see what kind of problems we have. So these are some other ongoing projects that DPW is involved with, and hopefully the next meeting and several meetings after that we have more information to bring back to you. So that's my report. Unless you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, Bill, in talking about the bridge at 621 in Bayou Goudin, as far as looking into it, if that is already being incorporated in the project to widen 621 from 73.
Yes, it is.
Is that's correct?
Yes.
There's no deviation from what we talked about years ago as far as trying to
That
get it all the way up to the bridge and improving the bridge, right?
Actually, the project, as the conceptualized project, as it was several years ago, was actually when the intersection of 621 I-10 73 was completed. The next phase of that immediate project was to go on 621 up to Tigger Duplessis Road and improve that highway to a multi-lane or at least three-lane, which includes the changing of that bridge and also intersection improvement at Tigger Duplessis. That was the plan as of then. Of course, we're coming out with a major transportation plan now, which actually includes all of 621. But that would still be the first phase of any improvements, is to go back and do those at that location.
Because someone, and I don't remember who, told me with the department that the downstream side of that bridge is like a foot higher than the upstream side of that bridge.
I haven't seen anything like that. You may be right. I haven't seen any information leading us to believe that.
I don't recall right off the top of my head who said that, who told me that within the department, but that was told.
That is now if you're looking at downstream of the bridge on the east side,
At the
which
bridge,
is,
man, I'm talking about at the bridge.
oh, at the bridge, you have a higher elevation on the ticketed plaza side, and also on the downstream of the bridge on the Bayou Grande south side is a higher elevation than on the other side. The other side is providing somewhat of a storage area for all of the Goudin. It spreads out, especially when we get close to the school. Our park, 621 Park, is actually providing a storage area for the waters when it goes through there. Whereas on the other side, you have a fairly high bank line, Bayou Grande South, and shields it from a lot of the high water. Okay. So there is a difference in elevation, but it has to do with either side of the east-west side of the Bayou Goudin.
Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, you mentioned earlier that you were identifying some bottlenecks and just looking for them. And so I've identified some bottlenecks in District 10, and I turned that over to Mr. Allred, our drainage supervisor. And I think all of them involve just the changing out of culverts in there, and he was going to look to see if it was a feasible project. Just wondering if there's any update on that.
I can get the information, Mr. Allred, give the information back to you tomorrow.
I know, I apologize. I should have called today. This is not an issue to bring before you. I was just looking for an update because
I can get you the information tomorrow.
Area.
I don't have it at hand, and I feel better if I just get the right information.
That's fine. I didn't want to catch you.
However, the part of our investigation is looking at not only debris but other reasons why the debris is collecting, be it willow trees or vegetation within the bayous, but also where we have multi-barrel culverts in a ditch where we need to clean or take it out and go with box cover or something more open span so debris doesn't collect at those locations. So we already identified a number of places, but we want to make a detailed map, detailed evaluation, and put together a project with funding to go in there and change a lot of these obstructions out. And we want to do it fairly fast because of the situation with the season, hurricane season, and other rain that coming in the summer and fall, and we want to proceed as quick as possible with this. So this is something that we're it's priority one, and that we're proceeding as quick as possible with.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean the areas I'm talking about really are affected more by flash flooding than anything else. But we've had a couple of instances of that, and I think just taking care of some of those bottlenecks would solve that problem right away. So I'll call you tomorrow, Bill.
Right. And on that same note, I'm just going to, a forewarning, we are classifying this as a priority one. We are classifying and going back and paying more emphasis on areas of flooding, areas of problems, and solving those. So you may see where some other things are pushed back to a later date because it doesn't involve a lot of these priority one things. So we're going to keep referring back to our priority list. Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Bill. We'll move on to number 7, amend minutes of February 6, 2006. Mr. Bill Rue.
Yes, sir. Heather's going to hand out a little bit of explanation. What happened on this? The minutes of 2/6, and I have a copy of it for you. When they went through the hiring of hiring of engineering firms for the following year, renewing contracts, in the official minutes, CDM and BKI was left out. When we went back and reviewed it, Finance Department really found the error. They reported to us that they could not pay CDM and BKI because they did not official notice of a renewal. And it came back to the fact that it wasn't put into the minutes. What we're asking, and if that first page you're looking at, this is the actual verbatim of the council meeting from the tape. What we'd like to do is amend, authorization to amend the meeting of 2606 to reflect the motion made by Mr. McConnell and seconded by Mr. Hillenspeck to approve all contracts and make sure that CDM and BKI are added to the list. They weren't originally added to the list.
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Shake Snyder to amend the motion to put CDM and Burt Klein Peter, BKI. in the contracts. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. Number 8 is an agreement between the East Ascension Drainage Board and Sheriff's Office. Bill Rue.
Yes, sir. This is the renewal of the longstanding contract that we've had with the Sheriff's Office. Nothing has changed in it except for, I think, a 3 or 4% increase in pay for the deputy, and that is the direct expense incurred by the Sheriff's Office. And that's the agreement that we have. When they increase the deputy's pay, we amend the contract to reflect that increase, so there's no extra cost to the Sheriff's Office. That's the only change in the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I so move. That's a very worthwhile project.
I got a motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Thompson. Any questions? Any objections? So moved. Approval of price quote on a Marsh machine for the Drainage Department. I got Bill Rue.
Yes, sir. The Purchasing Department received quotes on a machine that we call a Marsh amphibious hydraulic machine that we talked about a minute ago that we were able to, and there's pictures in your packet, I think, of it and the cost. This will enable us to go down the center of bayous, do digging and or, more important, shredding of trees and willow trees, just about anything that's in our way. The cost includes a rotary drum grinder of $50,000, and that is something that we've been needing for a while, and I think it's well worth the expense to get this and put it in operation and clean some of our bayous.
Got a motion by Mr. Shake Snyder, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Hillingsbeck.
Right. Bill, I understand this is going to be a new piece of equipment, and it's going to take a little while to get some operators trained up on it. But I'm getting calls from constituents, and I think they make a good point when they see that our long-reach track hose, well, I think we own one now, we lease one, being worked only 4 days a week. Is it possible to maybe train up some additional personnel where we can work this equipment 7 days a week and shift these people accordingly? I've got serious problems along Black Bayou, and I know there's other problems as well that need to be cleaned out and addressed. And I just like to see the equipment maybe better utilized. And I know Mr. Allred had said earlier this year that there was a process of going through and maybe getting people trained up, but do you think we can get enough operators we can work this equipment maybe at least 6 days a week?
We'll have to go through the Human Resource Department and work up some details on a two-shift system where you have personnel handling the machinery throughout the week, 7 days a week. There may be some issues, because of maybe some type of shift differential or working on weekends and stuff like this.
Right.
And I'd rather refer that to the Human Resource Department and get some input from them. We'll be glad to look at the situation and come back to the board.
Right. Well, as expensive as that equipment is, for it to be sitting 3 days a week, I don't think that's very cost effective for the parish. And I think we just need to make better utilization.
And again, we will look at and we have to look at the budget. We have to look at the amount of revenue compared to expenses, and then make a full report in the next meeting what we're able to do.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, I want to thank you for moving on this. I think in January meeting, I made mention to the drainage board members that we was going to Alexandria for our conference, and that we really need to look into a piece of equipment of this magnitude right here. Therefore, we wouldn't have to be going through the permitting process near about like whenever you're talking about dredging or digging up the roots and all stuff like that. Really glad you moved on it pretty quick. Have you personally witnessed this piece of equipment? Have you gone out and looked at it and checked it out thoroughly? And as far as this being the one that we need to fit our need?
Yes, sir. Well, I did see one in operation similar to it, owned by a pipeline company that cleared a piece of land not far from our pumping station along Bayou Francois. And it was amazing. They were taking down just about anything in sight. 10 and 12-inch trees actually was coming down. I mean, they were shredding everything. And that's all they do is shred because of permit issues. They come through that clear site for all wells or whatever. We also, review some of the equipment at a couple of local places that does it for a living. And this is something that we recommend. This particular machine is something I can recommend that'll fit our needs.
All right, thank you for moving on.
Any more questions? I have a motion and a second. Any objection? So moved. We'll move on to number 10, renewal of lease on FEMA flood hazard mitigation lot C 40. Mr. Doug Hillensbeck.
Right. I spoke with a couple of members of the Drainage Department about this particular lease, and it's just a standard renewal of an existing lease. They maintain the property that actually belongs to FEMA, but we have to approve annually the lease, so I'll make that motion on lot C40. It's on Bayou Manchac.
And what is the lease, Mr. Hillensbeck? $200 a year?
I believe it's $200 a year, yeah, $200 a year. You're right, Todd.
I'll second it. That's the corner at Camp and
It's one of those lots along Camp Drive and Manchac Acres, off of Manchac Acres Road.
I have a motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Questions?
Just a correction, I think that property belongs to us, doesn't belong to FEMA.
Well, okay.
We bought it with
Right.
FEMA money, but it belongs to the
they maintain it
parish.
for us. Oh, okay, good, thank you. Yeah, you're right.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, I do have a concern about moving in this direction with these pieces of property that we acquired through the FEMA buyout. Start with, whenever we brought them up and put them up for anyone in the public wishing to utilize them and all that, we put a price figure on it. That may have stopped some people from coming forward wanting to get in line or get on a list to get that piece of property. Second, I think there may be some cost on the parish's part as far as writing the contracts and following up as far as administrative costs. And I don't think $200 a month is out of line.
$200 a year.
But yet $200 a year is out of line if I've got an empty lot that I really want to utilize. And if we're going to do it to this one, or are we looking at opening it up and going ahead and giving it across the board? I mean, I don't think we thought this thing out thoroughly. But that's what I'm saying.
And
I mean, there's other parcels that we are leasing for $200 a year. You know, there is some administrative cost to it. So $200 is, I think, is a fair amount to lease a piece of property next to my house. You know.
But a question for legal. It's $200 a year, but we don't sign a 1 year. It's not a year by year lease, is it?
It's a yearly lease that's renewed, that they can renew.
Right. And they maintain the property. They can't build on it, but
Can't
they
do
do
anything to
maintain
it.
the property.
Right.
And so what it does, it relieves the parish of having to go out there and cut it and
Yeah,
clean it and
absolutely.
keep it up.
But-
I mean, I think it's reasonable.
Didn't we set them up on automatic renewal?
They've got to contact the office and ask for a renewal, and y'all got to approve it every year. Because it's a yearly lease. That's part of the FEMA buyout rules.
That's their regs, okay.
More questions? Got a motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert to continue with the lease on lot C40. Any objections?
Object.
Got one objection. Mr. Savoy. So moved. Number 11, presentation on drainage funding priorities, part 3. Mr. Hillensbeck.
Yeah, Mr. Lambert, I'm gonna pass on my presentation tonight, but I will say this. I think all of you know that I disagree with the funding priorities that this board's adopted. And 3 or 4 years now, we've done no dredging in the parish. And when we shifted priorities in June of 2005 and stopped the dredging program, we said we were going to do this dredging in-house, which then it went from dredging in-house to just doing maintenance in-house. And in 1 year's time, we've cleaned out 250 yards, approximately 250 yards of one bayou, starting at Black Bayou Road and moving northward to Germany Road. And so I'm going to pass on my presentation tonight, but I would like to remind everyone that I think the parish president stated in an earlier meeting that he suggested or recommended maybe we need to have a parish summit. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what we need, but I would like to see a report of all of the task orders and all the engineering firms we're employing. And just like to, like the parish president said that night, I kind of agree with him, like to see where all the money's being spent. Oh, and by the way, as far as my nose tonight, my wife didn't do that to me. I did that scraping the bottom of the pool over the weekend, so thank you.
Bill, one question on the long reach machine. We started on Black Bayou, and I think we had to remove it to go to another project. Wasn't that at Manchac Harbor to do some riprafting?
Yes.
So actually it got removed to go do another project.
Yes.
And that's why the delay came.
Right. And we do have pictures. That's another pretty good project that...
I think that project came to us with the need of getting
The
done.
Muddy Creek at that location has been improved a lot, and the use of the long reach was beneficial to that.
So how many days it left that site to go do this project?
It went on a couple of sites since it left there.
Okay.
We try to utilize it. When we're not using it in one place, we utilize it somewhere else if possible.
Okay. Thank you. Number 12, Stafford Heights drainage problem. Mr. Hillsback?
I believe Mr. Rue covered that at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Rue, for that report, and I'm glad to see we're making some progress there. In fact, Mr. Oldendorf is here tonight that's continued to have flooding problems in his district. I know he's glad to hear that we're doing something on that.
Okay, we got task orders on Law Ridge Levee and Henderson Bayou.
Right.
Update.
And I appreciate that update also that we got at the beginning of the meeting. I will say between the two task orders, I believe Henderson Bayou, that particular study was $220,000, and the Laurel Ridge Levee task order was $547,000. I don't think those issues ever came out when we approved the task orders. But again, I'd like to see all of these task orders and how much is being spent with the various firms. Thank you.
Number 14, Shadows of Ascension, Mr. Hillsback.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a development at the corner of Highway 44 and Parker Road, south side of Parker Road. And I've got some real concerns about this development. It's getting closer and closer to being kicked off, and my concerns are the residents along Abbey James, which the residents live south of this location, and also the residents in Stafford Heights Estates, Stafford Heights. And Bill, I don't know. I'm wondering at this point, what can we do about? Let's hold off. I don't want to see any permits to proceed approved. And I know it's not really a drainage board issue. I think it's more of a DPW issue. But at this point, with the existing flooding and conditions that we've got in that area, to come in with another development, it can't handle it. And I'm asking this board to get involved in that situation, and you and Mr. Godan, and I want us to make sure before any permits to proceed are issued that we've got these drainage ditch issues resolved.
Yeah, of course, this is a planning issue, planning and zoning. It has received preliminary approval. It has met all of the qualifications or restrictions of our subdivision code, and according to our review agent, they've done everything asked of them, or legally binding for them to do, and even a few things other than that. I don't know what kind of power we have to restrict them any further or demand any more of them. Personally, from DPW's point of view, we would like to be able to negotiate with a lot of these subdivisions on raising the standard, especially for the detention of water on some of these properties. The drainage ordinance will give us a little bit more wind path, and I think it's getting real close. will give us a little bit more authority to do more. But under the present ordinance, it's so much that we can do, and that's all we can do.
Right.
Until the ordinance is changed. But we're really looking at it, and we're going to get involved with the developers ourselves, for DPW, and see if they'll go over and above some of the mandated work that they've already accepted to do.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your efforts. After the last flood out there we had, I think it was after Hurricane Rita, Michael Sanji, our engineer from planning and zoning, I think he visited the site, and I wasn't on site at the time, but I'm told that his exact words were, "We've got some problems here that we weren't aware of," and this is the drainage problems south coming out of Stafford Heights, and of course, again, until we correct that situation, it really it makes no sense to allow a development to go forward. So what I'm asking, maybe you and CJ put your head together and let's bring O'Neill in, whatever we got to do to hold up that development from moving forward until such time we've got these drainage issues resolved. Because Mr. Sanji said he was not aware of the existing drainage problems when he gave the okay for planning and zoning to approve the development.
And again, when you get now, O'Neill, you can answer it. Right.
Yeah, okay.
The ordinances provide for zero impact from a subdivision.
Right.
And if they meet
The
that
new
requirement, our ordinances, which is what as a council members y'all have passed, they're entitled to approval.
Right.
And if you stop them, you're going to pay them. I can
Right.
tell you that right now. Be prepared to pay, because that's your alternative. Once they meet, I just did a bunch of research on that matter and sent it out. And once you meet the requirements of the ordinances, you're entitled.
Even if it was approved under existing conditions that people weren't aware of the situation?
It's a zero impact for that particular subdivision.
Right.
That's what the ordinances provide. It's that particular subdivision. It's not, if there's other problems that are not going to be impacted by that subdivision. So if you want to stop them, you can, but you're going to pay them.
Right.
I mean, that's.
Well, hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully we're going to get this stuff
Right, but
resolved.
I
It's
mean-
been going on for years.
But the drainage board and the planning and zoning, I represent both of them.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's two different issues.
Right.
A development is based on zero impact, off-site impact, and that's the issue. And if they provide engineering data and they're able to show that, now if their subdivision is causing that, that's a different story. But if it's not their subdivision, they're entitled to their permits because they're going to have theoretically zero impact.
Right. Okay. Thank you, O'Neill. Thank you, Todd.
We'll move on to number 15, list of drainage ditches, canals to be taken into Ascension Parish drainage system. Mr. Hillensback.
Isn't that what you handed out earlier, Bill? I know
Yes,
3
sir.
months back or 4 months you said you was working on that list. And
That's our list. In fact, Mr. Chairman, if we could make a resolution on that.
I also
under
make
this
that motion
item.
to accept that list of ditches. And
Got a motion by Mr. Hillensback and a second.
Well, second for the
Second by Mr. Shakespeare. Discussion. Mr. Shakespeare.
Yes, the laterals going through Sorrento, that goes through is that listed anywhere on there, or do we still have to do that?
I'm not sure.
It's
the
not
lateral in
listed.
Sorrento.
And I'll put them back together.
Yeah.
No, the only ones that I put the main intake channel leading to the pumping station and that main channel that goes around and ends up near Old 22. The main drainage channel. We can always add that. I mean, that's a first copy, if you will. Those are everything that I knew personally about and that I knew we needed to add into the system.
Okay.
But I can get with somebody and add that.
I'll go
and,
sit with you and show you the ones that they
Okay.
do have that are the main laterals historically
Okay.
from there.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that they would be added within
We don't-
this. Can we approve this pending if he sees that they qualify to be added as main laterals?
I'm in favor of adopting the list. I'm not comfortable adopting tonight without having a chance to look at the list.
Okay.
I mean, we can change it, and we can approve it, but, I mean, we still have to go back and look at it and make sure that none of them were left out,
Right.
that we feel that's important. That's the only concern I got. You know, so however you want to work it.
I'd like to put it on the next agenda for the next ones that needed to be added.
Bill, is there any emergency to move on this tonight?
from the drainage board standpoint?
Well, you just get the process moving a lot faster. Faster we can get the list to DOTD, get approval, and get it back, the faster we can get these included in our
Okay,
major
then what's
drainage
it going
system.
to take to add?
Just a vote to add this to it, just like we're doing tonight.
Well, we can do that.
Yeah, you just add, 2, 3, 4 more at any point in time.
All right.
It shouldn't be a major
Any
issue.
more questions? Got a motion by Mr. Hillenspeck, second by Mr. Schexnayder. Any objection? So moved. I got one item under my report. I got Miss Eva Kaysen. This is a bulkhead that's on the Henderson Bayou Cut that's failing. The cables are popping, and I think Miss Eva has some information she wanted to. This was on our agenda last meeting, but Mr. Kaysen was out of town, and I believe he's out of town again tonight, and she's here to represent Mr. Roland Kaysen, which is her husband.
Hello. Thank you. I have the cable that was used to construct the bulkhead along the Henderson Bayou, the low wooden bulkhead, and the it's been analyzed and it's not it's substandard. So that's the reason for the failing of the bulkhead, is that the cable is not it wasn't the proper cable that was used on it.
Bill, she's got information that she got it analyzed, I guess, from an engineering firm or
Wire rope specialist.
wire rope specialist stating, y'all got information on this already?
We didn't get information on that. We did have the contractor go back and do an evaluation, the one that put it in.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had a soil borings of the soil, the backfill, to make sure that the proper backfill didn't have any kind of chemicals in the backfill that would cause it to erode the cables. This is not, as I understand, not the standard cable that he used before. So it should be could be some kind of issue with that.
There were two contractors. Right. The second contractor had to repair the first contractor's inferior products. But the testing of the soil, and the second contractor alleged that the first contractor put the bad soil or contaminated soil, but that was not the case.
No.
It's perfectly good soil. It's the cable that was the second cable replacement that's still a problem.
And Bill, I passed recently through there, and the cables are popping not in the soil. They're popping next to the post, which is on the outside in the air, so the soil is not even touching the cable. So she has a point there on.
And the bulkhead is actually pulling away from the
That's what the cables are holding. They pop.
and there's quite a bit of depth there that's just eroding.
And this is the wish of the board, how you want us to proceed, if you want us to go with. I don't think we have any legal recourse because it's been such a long time, several years, number of years. So just the wish of the board, if you want us to contract out a fix of the bulkhead, possibly rebuilding the bulkhead. This is not something DPW can just go do. We have to get permission from you to proceed with quotes on rebuilding the bulkhead.
Sabo.
Yeah, in this case, and I was representing your area back whenever the first cables failed, and what we found out is the contractor used a manila core, which was not the spec, and it didn't last no time at all.
Right.
Now, the piece of cable that you've got in your hand, is that from the second contractor coming in?
Yes.
And doing?
The one that alleged that it was not his cable that was bad, it was the soil.
Okay. The only thing that we might want to look at is back whenever we had the second contractor go out and repair it, there may have been some conditions on the agreement where it became theirs. I don't know. We'll have to research what the agreement was back then, to where we may not have any liability from that standpoint. I mean, we can still consider it as a board maybe, but from a legal standpoint, we may not have a legal standpoint. So, O'Neill, you're going to have to research that right there.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Mr. President.
Parish President Hughes, we may have O'Neill Products and Complete Operations recourse there from an insurance standpoint.
Mr. Schexnayder.
I think, Bill, it's pretty obvious. We need to do whatever we can do to repair that. We can get it early enough. You can dig out behind there, pull the bulkhead back, and restring it. And I think that would save us a lot of money in the long run.
Exactly.
If we get on it now, because this is going to continue. It's not going to be something that's going to go away. And I move that we task DPW to try to repair this, as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Shakes, not a second by Mr. Thompson. Bill, is this something we can do in-house, or you have to get a bid on it?
Contractor, get some quotes, at least 3.
So can't your motion?
Unless we
get
can,
a quote?
unless, Mr. Chairman, we can work out an agreement with the contractor that did before.
Okay.
So we'll take that route first with the assistance of legal. And then if we can't work out an agreement that way, we'll proceed with quotes.
You can let them know they probably won't be doing much work.
We'll negotiate and again, with legal and see what our recourse is, even through insurance or some omissions or something like that.
Question, Mr. Simon.
Yeah, in this case, how long has it been since they replaced it with that one right there? Do you have a time
I
frame?
think it was 98, 99 possibly.
6 years.
It's before I got here, so I know it's before 2000.
I would think that,
It's either, we need to do something, Bill, board.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't continue allowing that type of construction with that specifications if we're going to continuously going back and taking care of what is considered cosmetic. I would prefer fixing it right the first time and turn our back and not have to go back on, so we can put the monies toward better use. And that's not saying anything bad about your little bulkhead.
but it should have been done
Well,
right in the first
That's what I'm
place.
saying. We can't continuously going back to Mr. Cason. This is going to be the third time that we're going back to Mr. Cason. So that we might need to look at some specifications or something.
Can get it fixed right. Mr. Dempsey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this at the boat landing?
Yeah.
That's
That's the
correct.
boat landing?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Bill, we're looking at cleaning out from the mouth all the way to 431 on both sides, or what are we going to do?
Well, if you get into another issue was that that location was a sandbank or some kind of obstruction in the water for its navigation. It has nothing, really very little to do with drainage. It's a navigation issue. We went down, I think I reported last meeting, that we went through from the mouth of Henderson Bayou or Lake Velar all the way up to the 431 bridge. And we found a pretty consistent elevation, bottom elevation, all the way through, which would mean that if you say, well, you're going to do it for navigation purposes, you really need to clean all of it. Just cleaning right at the mouth doesn't benefit total navigation of it unless you're doing it primarily to benefit one landowner. So, if you go for navigation, you need to do all of it, which is a pretty big project. So, I mean, that's we get waiting for. You're here, and just not to remind you, but drainage purposes is what we are in existence for, drainage, and not navigation. Navigation is another issue that we do not get into that much. So that's why DPW did the evaluation they did and determined that it is a navigation issue and not a drainage issue, and we're bringing it back to the board for your direction.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
As far as being a drainage issue, where the floodgate is, where the weir is, there is a log jam there. I mean, that's where all the water flows, and there's a log jam. So it's not a navigation problem; it's a drainage problem.
Well, we'll remove the log jam.
Okay, that was another issue that I had.
And we weren't aware, but if there is, we'll inspect it and
yeah.
remove it immediately.
Because
that location.
There's a liability problem there too, because there are kids that are diving off of that top of that weir down, and will, hit a log. There's just no depth there at all.
You're talking about at the floodgate?
Yes.
You see, that should be protected. It was protected by a fence.
The gates are down.
Well, we'll have to secure that. We'll have our people out there tomorrow morning securing that and to make sure that nobody crosses it and nobody has access to it.
Oh,
that was the situation before. They had gates there preventing people to get on it.
Yeah, they've been torn down.
Well, we'll investigate that and do something immediately to prevent that.
And the logs will be cleared?
The logs will be cleared. That's a drainage issue. We definitely want to do that.
And I don't know if those, that gate's doing any good, or you could even use it to stop the flow of water, because it's so corroded,
That is all under litigation at this point. That whole
okay.
floodgate is under litigation.
I didn't know if you knew about it.
Oh, no.
We well aware.
It's under litigation. It's not functioning.
Right.
And that should be resolved.
Yeah, I never saw
That's
a point
right.
that it did.
It failed the first
Right.
time. So we're, again, litigation on that.
Okay, I appreciate you looking into it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Shea Snyder, second by Mr. Thompson. Move forward, Bill, whichever. Get quotes if we can't follow up with the contractor and insurance. Get us some quotes. Bring it back to next meeting as quick as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kay.
Appreciate it.
We're going to move on to new business. I have someone in the audience, Ms. Margaret Lee, Bayou Grand in Grand Gadine. I think she has a little presentation of slides.
Good evening, Council. I'm going to first talk to you about some of the things going on in Bayou Grand. We had a neighborhood meeting May 24th. Councilman Savoy and Councilman Valentine and Councilwoman Fontenot attended our meeting. And we appreciate their coming together for us as a team and not just representing their districts, their area. We have flooding with Rita and the two flash floods that we recently had, September 2005 Rita and April 2006. We had two flash floods. Saturday night, April 29th, I stood on my front carport with the waters at my threshold, as well as many of the neighborhood residents in our area. The houses in the area flooded 3 times. There is a house that flooded 3 times. It was finally covered by insurance. They did get to file insurance on the last time. It is actually drained from 621 and Chase Court. Drainage comes through there. We have an area child that's on life support. The mother's husband was at work, and when floodwaters come down their street, they tend to panic about that because no one's there to help. We've had vehicles that were flooded, lawn equipment. Our properties have flooded. We were nearly flooded many times for Rita and the recent flash floods. For emergency response, at 10:30 that night, I called Public Works and was referred to the Sheriff's Office. At the same time, I could see flashing lights on Tiggy Duplessis because they had barricades there. And I was referred to call the Sheriff's Office, who would put me on the list. There were people coming through our neighborhood that were threatening the waters coming into my house. And I'm not sure if they were doing that to bypass Tiggy Duplessis or if they were just our neighborhood residents. Barricades could have helped. Sandbags could have helped. We no longer are able to get sandbags. We're told that we need to buy mulch and put that in our doorways. That could help us with a flooding situation. We used to be able to go at least to the fire department and bag up our own sand and bring it back. Have sandbagged before. Distributed that sand throughout my house to make a berm. Sand is not real pleasant around your house. It drains off. It causes fleas and ticks. Your grass doesn't grow in the area. No any one information has who all has flooded. No one repository of information. Some people call their insurance company. Some people call their council member. And some people call Public Works. That tends to be an issue if we're hearing that there's just isolated flooding. How do you know it's isolated if no one person has all that information? There's been some health issues in our area with rats and sick dogs and animals and contaminated water. I asked at the FEMA firm map meeting for a list of flooded properties where there were claims. You now have that on your email. I emailed that to you this afternoon, and that can give us a little idea, at least, of where there's repetitive flooding with bullet points and addresses, of course, to Public Works. But that is only claims. That's not for those people that don't have insurance, that haven't reported it or filed an insurance claim. For drainage, the drainage for 621, Highway 621, comes over from Chase Court. When Chase Court was built, my husband went over there and talked to the council member of Public Works and the developer, and they drained part of their drainage from Chase Court to our subdivision rather than their side of the road to the Goudin because of this increase or this hill that goes up. That drainage, as I'll show you on this on the pictures that I have, it has flooded that house 3 times that it comes through. The ditch is not cleared. The canal's not cleared there. It also has drainage from Rockford sewer treatment plant and Highway 621 that comes through our subdivision. There was large culvert replaced in Bayou Grand. I'm at Bayou Grand, Bayou North, Bayou Meadow, and there was a large culvert replaced with 2 culverts. It catches debris. The street was resurfaced. It increased the elevation on Bayou Grand, so now the water doesn't even flow over to the bayou from my yard. I catch the drainage from my neighborhood in both directions. It floods over the street now instead of the canal. It's created a bowl effect by elevating that road from the resurfacing. We did have Mr. Allred and Mr. Savoy come out and look and review the area, and there is a work order, and he did say that that work order would be moved from priority 2 to 1. And we were advised to keep up with our work order numbers, and that way we can follow up with Public Works on that. I did request our ditch to be cleaned May 25th. I called Public Works, and they put us on a list. We have had that done before. That helps a lot because there's overgrowth into the little culverts there. There are undersized culverts that do drain through my yard, and my yard does drain the neighborhood through Bayou Grand. And they're undersized at the driveway, and they're undersized that goes into the canal that goes into Goudin. There's pumps at Prairie Oaks and Southwood we hear now, so we don't know if that's causing us any problems, but that is upstream on Goudin. As far as development, it's a very busy area. It's surrounded by Airline Highway, US 61, Highway 621, Highway 73, and Interstate 10. So there is a lot of development in the area. There's a new development on Duplessis Road. It was the old airport, and right now it's pending a second filing. Don't know what it's going to do, but we do know there was some drainage work done over there. It's across from Silverstone and Oakley, which one of the residents does flood over there that we know of. Drainage work was done. There's a second filing coming before the Planning Commission. We will address the Planning Commission as far as what kind of drainage impact that's going to have on the Goudin in our area. I did call about that. I called the planning office, talked to 2 people in the planning office. They referred me to Michael Sanji, who I could not get in touch with, about finding out about that particular development. On Highway 73, there's been a 45% increase in traffic in 3 years, so you know that'll give you an idea a little bit about the development in the area. The population of the parish increase has been about 20,000 in the last several years, and of course more since the hurricane. We have residents that are coming from New Orleans, from Bay St. Louis, all the Gulf Coast area, and it's pretty traumatic when they buy a home here and then they also experience some flooding. I understand from some information I have that for building permits, there's 35 subdivisions for inspection at any given time, and I know our building department only has several, inspectors. And that brings up the point, if we're giving out a building permit, and we're passing, some development with planning and zoning, and then it finally gets to the drainage, well, then they tell us, well, you've already given us a permit, and you're letting us, getting this approved through planning and zoning. You can't now tell me I can't have it because of the drainage.
Ms. Margaret, I'm going to give you another minute. We have a 5-minute presentation time period, but I'm going to give you another minute.
I'm almost finished with this. There's more than 10 subdivisions before the Planning Commission each month. Highway 621, the FEMA Mobile Home Park drainage. We don't know that that's flooding us, but that was new, and that's next to Chase Court. Chase Court did not have a zero impact because it is definitely impacting our subdivision. We do have one of our residents that is a 38-year resident, and he said that when the Goodine was dredged, it did help. They did that at the 100-year flood level. Heather, if you can click the desktop for me, I want to show these pictures. We're going to leave it to you, to the solutions. I know we can recommend that, but this right here, this is the Grand Goodine area, Tupelo Street, right off of Highway 621. You'll see Chase Court. You'll see the development. Bayou Grand is right there at Tupelo Street. This is the Grand Goodine. This is actually the subdivision I'm in, Bayou Grand. It's Golden Meadow. You can see it's dead-end streets. Mistletoe is at the end of Mistletoe. That dead end is where drainage comes from Rockford Sewer Treatment Plant from Highway 621 and from Chase Court and 621, Highway 621 from across the street. This is the canal towards Tiggy Duplessis at Goodine. There's pipes, there's drainage pipes, it catches debris, there's big white PVC pipes, there's a number of things at that culvert that catches debris, and that drains our neighborhood over the Tiggy and into the Goodine. This is the canal at Bayou Grand and Bayou Meadow. These are the two culverts they put in. You'll see the size of the little one that's coming from my yard over into the those two drainage pipes. Again, maybe box culvert would help that. Don't know, but the larger culvert, these tend to catch more debris. This is the sewer drain. This is actually the drainage at Bayou Grand North and Bayou Meadow. It's a very small pipe, very small culvert. This is the one at the driveway that drains from the other side of my property from the neighborhood. This is the 621 Chase Court side of drainage that goes over 621 into our neighborhood. This is the ditch at 621 that goes into that neighborhood. And you can see it has one of the pipes still there as far as catching debris and not cleared. This is Rockford Sewer Treatment Plant, Rockford Drainage. It intersects right there from Highway 621 and Tiggy, and that is the canal that drains in front of my property and behind many of the residents' property in our area. This is Tiggy, towards Tiggy Duplessis from Bayou Grand North, and this is after it's drained somewhat already. This is Tiggy Duplessis. I'm standing on the bridge, the private bridge that goes to a resident, the public bridge that goes to a residence there. That is Goodine. I'm standing on that bridge, and it is completely flooded at the Goodine and across Tiggy Duplessis. This is, again, another shot of that. They are in their boats. This area quite frequently floods because Goodine is right next to Tiggy Duplessis. Floodwater's down. It's even brushed up things across the bridge there. The bridge is deteriorating from all the floodwaters that go over it frequently. This is Duplessis School. 2 days later, this is what the floodwaters look like at Highway 621 and Duplessis School. This is the new subdivision area. This is the drainage that runs along that airport. That airport first filing subdivision backs up to our subdivision. It goes all the way, and we want to, kind of address that, make sure there's no drainage impact to Goodine and our subdivision. This is what it looks like, the airport. They call it Cessna Street. Not sure if it was a runway or it is actually a street. And that's it. Thank you for allowing me to give that information.
Any more new business?
I do.
Mr. Shakespeare.
One thing, and we had kind of discussed it before, I'd like to make a request that on an experimental basis that we contract out 2 or 3 ditches to see what will be the effect. We're continually having people come in here, we continually go to DPW, and we just can't catch up. And we're having work problems and whatever. And I'd like to see what would happen if we take 2 or 3 of these ditches, these laterals, major laterals, and contract them out, have bids out, contract them out, get them done. Maybe take I don't care where we do it, take a good priority, see what it costs us. If they're cost effective, we might be able to do this a little more with Drainage Board, get some of this stuff done and out of the way. And I just think we could do this on an experimental basis, see what it costs us, and find out if we're efficient or not. But we need to take a look at it. And I think for all the reasons everybody's here, everybody's talked about, I, to a certain extent, agree with Mr. Hillenbeck. From the standpoint of our long reach backhoe and this new piece of equipment that needs to be in operation as much as possible. It needs to be digging. The whole DPW use on this drainage board needs to be in effect to operate this machinery. And we need to dig ditches. Now, whatever we have to do that, we need to make sure we do it. And so I'd just like to see, where we stand, cost effective, if you could do that. And I'd like to offer that up as a motion just to see and give us a report after that.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Hillens.
Had some discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A year ago when we shifted our priorities, I stated then that I don't want to sound like I'm knocking DPW. They got a lot of things to take care of. But I said then, or I said a year ago, I said I don't think we've got the manpower, nor do we have the equipment to try to take this task on in-house. And I'd really like for us to go back and let's look at what we've done and rethink some of that. I never have said building this levee should not occur. What I have said from day one was I felt like that building that levee was the wrong priority when we've got as much growth as we have in the northern end of the parish, and we've got existing flooding problems. And it's not that they're not trying to address them, but in-house, they just don't have the equipment, don't have the manpower to address these issues. So, Ken, I appreciate you saying that, and I hope the board will see fit to analyze the situation and rethink it and come back.
More discussion? Mr. Samuel.
Yeah, exactly what is the motion? Is the motion to get the departments to go and work up some figures and bring back to us?
I'd like to see them bid out 2 or 3 ditches, whatever they deem is necessary.
Contract it out.
To get something, to get a cost and everything, and see how cost effective they are on an experimental basis, and we'll see.
Well, I agree that we can move forward faster on some of the ditch clearing. Contracting out is an idea, and I'm not against that idea. But there's some other things that we might be able to look at. That is, looking at the budget and seeing if we can work our own people an extra 2 days, like a Friday and Saturday, and see what that does too. Okay, did you already?
Talking you might, yeah.
Because that's just another option that I think we should look at. And Bill, you got something?
Well, just to remind the council members that a lot of our problem is not putting a manpower with a piece of machine out on a ditch. The problem is the preparation to get the man out there, and that is the right-of-way issues, the problem with access to because of structures next to the ditch. It's determining what should be done, the cut sheets, the engineering on it. All of this needs to be provided before we set a man out there with a piece of machinery. And what we definitely don't want to do is put a person out on a ditch to dig it and go through all of this effort, and we dig the ditch and it's really of no consequence. It really doesn't provide a solution to it. So it's a lot of work going into determining exactly what to do, how much to do, when to do it. And again, the right-of-way issues is one of our major problems. Right-of-way and access to the structures, and permitting in some cases. So it seems like sometimes it takes a long time to do it, but the actual work, once you put the piece of machinery out there, it really doesn't take that long. It's the preparation, getting to that point, and that's some of our holdup.
Well, then we need to get some permitting people. We need to get some right-of-way people, and get this stuff taken care of. If that's the holdup, then we need to address those issues. Regardless of what the issues are, we're not doing things in a time. And I'm not. Again, I am not knocking DPW at all, because I think there's a lot of things that we have to do. We're trying to address a great deal of things. We're in an area of growth. We're in an area of we're putting houses where probably we shouldn't, but that's the facts. That's what we're living with. And, we need to step back and take a look at things differently. And I keep hearing over and over and over again, this is a right-of-way issue. Well, if it's a right-of-way issue and we got one person with right-of-way or two people with right-of-way, we might need four.
Well, again, and this is part of the problem. I think it's a good conversation, because it brings you back to the point of what is the wishes of the board. Now, it's very, very easy to cut a right-of-way agent loose and say, give me the right-of-way, and then say, how big is your purse? Okay, what we've been doing is trying to get free right-of-way on minor ditches and stuff like that. We have always were able to gain free right-of-way because we're benefiting everybody along that ditch. Now, again, you go to a right-of-way agent and say, I want it. Well, guess what? He'll get it for you in a week's time, where it might take us a month. But it's going to cost you some money, because he's going to buy it. Now, if you want the board, if that's the direction the board wants to go, is, well, from now on, we buy right-of-way, because once you open the door, it's open.
No,
and now you continue to buy it from everybody.
I didn't say that. I said it takes time to do it. And because it takes time, then we may need to have more people on that aspect of it, because it does take so much time. And we need to spend some time with that. But I mean, I think that's something we need to take a look at, because we're continually getting this. We've had discussions on ditches that we know needs to be dredged out. I know in the Sorrento area, and we've done some. But we've had things that for 2 years now we brought out, we've taken pictures, we've looked at them, and those are things that need to be done. Now, I also realize that we've shifted our priority. We need to go back in the areas of people that are having houses flooded, and I applaud that. That's what we need to do. But we're getting to the point now where we really need to take a look at how we're going about doing things. And I think we need to try a few different things. If right-of-way is a problem, let's hire some right-of-way people to cover that. We don't have to change policy to do it. And if getting the equipment and operating it is a problem, then we just need to take a look at things differently. And but I believe one thing that will get the attention of a few people is to put some things out for bid and see what it comes out, and see how cost effective it is. And if we're digging X amount for a certain amount of money, and it costing us X amount for a certain amount of money, either it's cost effective or it's not. And but I haven't seen any figures either way, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to see us try it and see how long it takes and what's going to happen. But I think if you put some people out there and give them an opportunity to do it, I think we get some results, and we need some results. So
we'll be glad to put something together, get some figures, and bring it back to the board. And either way it goes, we're open to improving, our operation. So whatever it takes, we're willing to look at and do. But I'm just telling you right now that a lot of our problems is not the manpower actually doing it, it's the preparation and all the problem we have just to get onto the piece of property. And I want to mention one example that was just brought up, and that's that ditch in Bayou Grand. I mean, it's real easy to say, enlarge my ditch, but guess what? You can't hardly do a lot of it. It got houses next to it, it got structures next to it, it's within a drainage basin. I mean, it's really a ditch within a somewhat of a gully. I mean, it's made to overflow, and now we're restricting that overflowing. and that was done years and years ago. And it's nothing against the residents there, but this is the situation. And to say, get out there and let's dig the ditch bigger, well, that's not always possible. So you look at the alternatives, what you can do. And again, this is part of our problem that we have. But we'll be glad to look at all scenarios, how we can improve. And if subcontracting it out, we're more than welcome to look at that and present it to you.
Mr. Dempsey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're real close here with the board, with the equipment that we're going to acquire here. But how quick will we know something from the administration on the hours? I think we have the equipment. I believe if we move into the working this equipment 6 days a week, can you get us something pretty quick on that, Bill?
We should be able to. Again, I like our human resource department to look at the issue, the employment issue that goes along with putting on shifts like this, and then we have to look at the budget, and we have to look at the what we have in our drainage fund, and certainly have to come back. Either way we go with it, subcontracting it out or putting manpower on, we're going to have to amend the budget.
Just the key thing.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, the key thing here, Mr. Rue, is going to be with the contracting. There's a lot of lines out there that you have to have a certain amount of insurance to cross to dig around. So we might want to consider that. We have good operators that work for the DPW, and we might just want to just sit back and get some more, get our human resources on board here as quick as possible.
And it's easy to say hire more people to it, but I'm telling you right now, it takes a while for these people to really become acquainted with digging a ditch the way we dig it. And I'm telling you right now, because we looked at the DOTD, we looked at everybody that subs it out and does work like this. There's nobody better than our DPW personnel in digging ditches. I mean, they can really get out there and do a fine job. But to bring somebody in to do the same quality of work might not be as easy as you think. You got a lot of people that can dig, but not dig the grade and do the work the way we do it. And that is another issue there. But we'll bring everything back to you next meeting and give you some figures and some ideas.
Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, Bill, do we have a wetland issue on any of these ditches that requires a Corps permit that's being held up?
If you really get down to the meat of the whole thing, every ditch is a wetlands, as per the Corps regulations. We do have nationwide permits that we do get on a number of ditches, and that permits us to move quickly and routinely year after year. But however, ditches are wetlands, and we have to go through a permit process or a permission process before we get on a ditch.
So most of the ditches that we have a problem with, they're already permitted?
No. A lot of them
so
aren't.
That takes time also.
That's permitting process or going through a nationwide with some of the ditches. Permitting process.
Mr. Hillingsworth.
Yeah, Bill, if you're talking about maybe getting some costs, I'd like to see you get some costs up there on Muddy Creek, and let's see what it's going to cost to do that on a contract basis, to clean out maybe the upper reaches of Muddy Creek west of Manchac Acres Road, where it comes around through the Dixon Horse Farm and then comes under 42 and by Charleston, down by Prairieville School. All that area is flooding, and guess what? We've got new developments coming in. And I realize they're supposed to be built at zero impact, but it just needs to be cleaned out. I wish you'd maybe look at that particular section as a test run. Maybe do a couple in the parish. But I really need some help up there. So.
Well, we actually, Councilman, to answer your question, we actually already started looking at that location. And to be honest with you, you really, it's not actually just looking and saying, well, this ditch flooded, so let's contain it. Let's dig the ditch bigger, and they'll hold the water. And if you look at the amount of flooding or topping of the bayou in a lot of areas, you'll see that if you put the figures together, you'll see that to dig a ditch big enough to encase that water, to contain that water that came out of it, you might need 500 feet wide by 20 feet deep, a river coming through there to try to contain this. Again, now we're getting out of the floodplain management. Floodplain management says let it overflow where it's continuously, traditionally overflow, allow it to overflow, and just stay out of that area, instead of trying to artificially contain nature, contain that bayou. So it's a lot easier to say, let's dig it bigger, but sometimes you just can't dig it big enough. And I'm not saying this is the situation at that location, but there is a large overtopping of that into the pastures all along there, and a number of other locations throughout the parish. So it's a real issue that we have.
Yeah, and I'm not saying dig them wider. I'm saying clean it out. I mean, I think it's silted in.
Mr. Valentine.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lamont. Bill, I kind of want to echo what Councilman Shakespeare said. I think there is some small projects, what we call hotspots. I mean, since I've been on the council, I've been asked a lot of times about the traffic and the roads, but 8 out of 10 problems that ring my phone is drainage. And, the list that you gave us here, in fact, I need to correct one with you here, but the list that you gave us here, I mean, I see several projects just in my district, and I'm sure each person can find some projects that probably could be contracted out, and these are the same hot spots that came up all the time. And I guarantee you I can find the money for you in the budget that I can move to do it if that's what it needs to do. I mean, I'm in favor of what Mr. Shakespeare is saying, and I think we need to take care of some of these hot spots that keep they're cropping up. Now, for instance, like you mentioned Bayou Grand, well, there was several culverts that was mentioned in Bayou Grand that could be switched out. If it takes a contractor, we need to mark these, go out with that, and the contractor goes and switch them out. I don't see a problem with it. I know for a fact that there are people in this parish that are going around and making a living on some of that stuff. So I'm sure, Picos, whatever. I don't want to mention anybody, but somebody would bid on, significant or certain projects that we essentially would spec out for them. And that's essentially, I guess, what you're saying you're going to do. You're going to bring us back some information on that?
Yes, sir. I mean, again, my salary is the same if I contract all of it out or have our own people do it all. Right. I don't get a commission on anything.
But for instance,
it's whatever benefits the parish, whatever gets it done a lot faster. The parish president and I is willing to go forward with it. And make it happen.
For instance, after the storms, I mean, we had people come in and pull out trees and everything out of our. We still have some trees down. We still have some blockage up. I mean, and I don't know. She showed, Miss Margaret showed a very good picture of 3 different pipes going across the ditch. I don't even know what they are, but we need to see about whatever they are, getting them sunk deeper or out of the way. It's an obstruction to the ditch. And I'm not sure if they even, they're still being used, whether they're gas or what. I have to get Dempsey to check that, see if that's gas lines from.
They probably some type of utility coming through there, but.
But anyway, I think that's what Ms. Shakespeare is talking about. Projects that we can go, that we can do, and like I said, I'm sure Mr. McConnell's got some. I got 3 or 4 right here. I tell you, I could easily put to a contract and get done in the next 30 days. When we meet next month, I can say, hey, they've been taken care of. Now, I know some of you guys, you go out and you do the project and you do the specs on it to start off with, right? I mean, you shoot grades and what have you.
Let me back up 1 minute. You see, and you get into a little bit of issue.
Am I simplifying it too much?
A little bit.
Okay.
And let me give you another example, one of many. But we got the public works law, contracting law. We got a lot of other things that comes into play here. Now, if it's over a certain amount of money, then we're forced to go to bid, public bid on it. Even on quotes, we have to go through certain regulations and certain laws to even give a quote out, one of which is giving a detailed engineering design. If we go to bid, we actually have to have a complete engineering design stamped by a professional engineer to give to all persons wishing to bid on it. So now you're talking about a whole another process, just like building a road or anything else, that may take, if you go look at from A to Z, the start to finish of the thing, it might take 3 times longer to do a simple project because we have to go through the bid process and cost twice as much because you got to get an engineering firm to actually do it for you. Whereas in our case, our engineering department, our survey department gets out there, does a simple cut sheet, and we off and run it.
Right. But if you stay under that figure, though,
if you stay under
and that's what I'm talking about, small hot spots,
and
small.
You still have to give out
5 or 6 culverts that need to be replaced.
You still have to give out some type of engineering or some type of design for them to go by, because their liability issue is if you don't give me something, you give me something, I do it what you give me, but don't tell me to go out there and use my discretion or just word of mouth because that could come back and hurt them and us in the future. So government is a little bit different from private enterprise in that we have certain things that we have to go through before we can give anything out. But certainly, we're going to look at it, and if we can do something to help, we'll do it.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, Mr. Schechtner, what's your motion now?
Thank you.
Come back next meeting with a plan.
You want some
I
quotes?
guess I'll acquiesce and wait for, I want them to do it, but we'll wait next meeting with a plan that you can have and check on whatever we need to do to step this up. Give us a plan that we can, whatever your problems are, tell us what your problems are and how much money it needs us to help it so we can direct that in those areas. If right-of-way is a problem and we have to spend more money there, let's do it.
Well,
if we need to contract small things, let's do it. But that's my motion. I want to report next meeting so we can move forward.
We got a motion by Mr. Schechtner, a second by Mr. Hillensbeck to come up with some, I guess, information, quotes.
Right. What we actually going to
cost
do,
analysis on.
and just thinking out loud right now, probably what we do is throughout the parish, different districts, we'll pick out some different little projects here and there, and then we'll actually put something together and see what the bid is and what the problems are involved in doing those particular jobs, and bring that back to you and say, this is some of the things that we suggest to do. This is the pros and cons of it. This is the cost compared to us doing it. This is the time compared to them doing it. What's your pleasure?
That's good. That's a good idea.
Any objections on the motion? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Mr. President.
Somebody mentioned hours and all. When I first took office 2 years ago, we experimented with flex hours, different shifts of Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, looking at Wednesday through Saturday. And we had a real significant problem with qualified operators at different times. If one operator on the team didn't show up for work on that Friday morning, that whole team is shut down unless you had another operator you could bring in from somewhere else to do the work. And so that was one that we did experiment with that, because I thought that was the way to run this parish, to where if we had bad weather first part of the week, we'd catch good weather at the end of the week. So in order to do that, we're going to need the equipment and you're going to need people, but it's got to be very qualified people, and you got to have backup. So if you guys want to take a lot of your drainage, 1.5 cent sales tax and do that, we'll implement it tomorrow. But you got to be prepared to spend a substantial amount of that money to do that and to really specify drainage. Because as you realize, we got some people getting paid from this fund, some people getting paid from that fund, some people getting paid from parish funds, some people getting paid from drainage funds. And so we're working diligently on this right now, trying to figure out the best way to do it, because it is a problem. I mean, we got even Mr. Russauer not paid from one source because of the work he's done. And he doesn't get paid any extra money by the drainage board above and beyond what he does as his director for the parish council and for the parish as a whole. And so there's a lot of issues here because of the way this whole drainage situation is there. But if you guys want to start in the next few days bidding out some projects, all far, but you've got to do some budget amendments and things, because you remember you're in the middle of a budget year that you've already approved. And so to make all this done properly and legally, you need to do that. But just keep that in mind. We have experimented with those work schedules, and we talked about it again last month, because I have not been satisfied that it can't work. It did not work the first year. And I'm not sure that's because of the people we have don't want it to work, or the absenteeism problem. If it's just one or two critical people miss work on a Friday morning or Saturday, it shuts down a whole crew because of the way these teams work. Now, the other issue I want to remind all of you are, if you haven't been out, you need to go out and all over. We talked about the Marty Burat ditch a lot the last 2 or 3 months. Well, when I was out there last week with some people looking at things, we've got now people not just building a fence in our servitude, we've got a building built in our servitude where a guy can come through his fence into the building, into the creek, and all his extra material left over from building the buildings on the side of our creek. So the first high water, that wood and all is going to be right down through the system. And I can tell you, Parish government doesn't have the money or the people to go out and enforce all of that, to go in every house. So you've got to help us as a governing authority with ordinances and laws to where you put teeth in them to where when we stake off a new subdivision, that developer is either donating to the parish that right-of-way, not a servitude, we own it, or else they are responsible for drainage in that new development as long as that development is active. And those surveying stops on especially the back part of these developments would be put where that land is very clear that we own. There's no way they put a fence in because that surveying stop would be right there inside that backyard instead of back there just a maintenance servitude. And so those kind of things have got to be done. And we've been working on these subdivision regulation revisions with the drainage ordinance now for a year and a half. And I know the hurricanes delayed us with a lot of disruption, but we need the drainage ordinance done quickly. We need the subdivision regulations done quickly with these kind of changes so that we have some teeth in there. And I know it's tough sometimes politically. It's going to be tough for us to go tell that guy to knock that building down. He built in the servitude behind his yard. But more than likely, the surveying stop is back there by the edge of that ditch somewhere in our servitude. Because we don't own it, we just got a maintenance servitude through it. So a lot of people think in their mind, well, this is the corner of my property, I can go put a fence there, I can go build to that corner, and yet it is not their right to use it, it's the parish's right. So as you look at that, we ask you to do one or two things in that regard. If we're going to own the land, they got to cut it off where we own that piece of property, and those surveying stops are put where that they don't use any of that. Or else, if we're not going to get that from the developers, well, then we're going to require the developers to continue to be responsible for the internal drainage within that neighborhood as long as that neighborhood is there, because they're the ones making a lot of the money from that neighborhood. And a lot of these problems, almost everything we've heard the last few months has been from the older subdivisions that were built many years ago before some of the restrictions that we have in place now are in play. And so even with a zero impact ordinance on that new development, we still got those older subdivisions that were not in with that same standard. And so those are some things we need, and we need the council to act on them soon so we can do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
One more.
Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you. And with that, I want to let everyone know that the drainage ordinance is finally been kicked around. It is ready. It's going to be on the next strategic planning meeting. So all you people with drainage issues, please encourage people to support the drainage ordinance. There's some hard decisions here to make. There's some things that we haven't done in Ascension Parish. There's some things that some people are not going to like when they go to develop in areas that they shouldn't develop in. But for us to stand up here at a meeting and look you in the face and say, look, we're doing the best we can to keep you from flooding, we're going to have to make some hard decisions, and this is one of them. And drainage ordinance is there. It's there to protect the people and keep new people from flooding and the older people from flooding that have been here. And I think it's one thing we're going to have to move on. It's out there now to take a look at. And we're going to vote on it at the next meeting. Also, the subdivision regulations, which has been worked hard. I'd like to thank Michael Songi and DPW and everybody else that was involved in the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's coming up for a vote at the next meeting. So for all the people that have been here very frustratingly at meeting after meeting, seeing all the problems that we've had, we've raised expectations and regulations for subdivision, or we're proposing to raise them, of our streets, how you construct the streets, and because we've been having street failures in some, so we're raising the regulations and specifications of that. We're also raising the drainage restrictions and things of that sort. So these things are on the table. If you want to see some improvements, encourage people to vote for it. There's some hard decisions, some things that are hard decisions to make because they're going to affect people, and but it's something we need to move forward with. So it's there at the next strategic planning meeting. It's on Monday the 26th, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. Any more new business? Old business, I have someone in the audience who wants to speak. Mr. David Wingirter, flooding, Abby James, 40400, Prairieville.
It's an area that was discussed earlier. My home faces south, right near the ditch that was discussed earlier. I've been there 2 years. Went through the process necessary to determine at what level I should build a house. I've almost flooded, well, I've actually had water partially flooded my home twice already. And the first flash flood we had, I was within inches. You know, I know they've discussed cleaning out an area where there's a problem. I have pictures. I didn't bring digital images, but if anybody's interested in seeing the pictures. I mean, if the ditch is designed to overflow, it's working, because I've never seen water come up fast like that. And it does not drain during the storm. During the rain, it does not go down. Regardless of whether the water, you know, if it rains 2 or 3 inches, you would expect during a period of not as heavy rain to go down. It doesn't go down until the rain stops. It didn't sound like to me when you were talking about there's an area where you're having problems getting access to it, like that was like water couldn't pass. It sounded like it was a small amount of debris. This is a, I mean, even areas north of me, residents are having the same situation that I am. This development behind me, I'm not opposed to development, but the development behind me is going to put water in my house every time we get 3 inches of rain. I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen pictures. If y'all want to see them, I can show them to you. You know, it's relief. It seems like there needs to be some sort of relief from that ditch, and you know, I don't know whether that's a right-of-way issue or what, but you know, I followed the rules that the parish says. You know, you have to build 1 foot above base. Well, I'm well above. I'm much higher than 1 foot above base, and the base has been raised since then, and I'm still, you know, three times in 9 months. You know, and a little bit of cleaning of that ditch, unless some sort of plan to relieve that ditch once this new subdivision goes in, is not going to do it. There are residents south of me that are flooding, and you know, I mean, I don't know whether anybody's ever had water that close, that fast, but it's a Chinese fire drill, especially in the middle of the night. And I mean, can you all say that this cleaning of this out is going to do something, or do we need to look at something more expensive? Whatever the case may be. It's not just me. I mean, I'm just one person, but it's a whole lot of people that are flooding because of that ditch.
Bill, this is the Bayou Henderson Basin, correct?
Bayou Henderson Basin, and the fact of the matter is the cleaning of this ditch is just it's a maintenance item. It's not going to significantly relieve any high water that occurred at the last couple of rain events. This is something that's a maintenance issue, to get in there and try to clean and then and keep it clean as far as trash and stuff building up in it. The only thing that we're hoping for right now is the Keystone development and the work that it's going to do on Henderson Bayou itself, enlarging that, because when we went and looked at it during the last couple of rain events, and I personally went and looked, you had overflow and overtopping of that ditch and actually parts of Henderson Bayou until you get close to Henderson Bayou Road. Once you got past Henderson Bayou Road, or at least even approaching Henderson Bayou Road, after that it was within its banks and flowing good, which will lead us to believe, and the worst overtopping of all of it occurred at the convergence of the Marty Burak ditch, another major lateral that goes across Duval Road, and Henderson Bayou, which is all coming in just north of or west of the Keystone development, which would lead us to believe that an enlargement and improvement of what they're doing as part of that development will allow that water to get on out and get to Henderson Bayou Road and to Lake Velar a lot faster. That is what we're hoping for. And even if we're going to take it a step further than that. We're going to monitor what they're doing at that development. And if at some point we see where a little bit more improvement will improve the situation upstream, well, we can step in and see if we can provide a little bit more improvement to that area. So you're right. Cleaning a ditch just south of Abbott James Road is not going to improve your situation that much. It's a maintenance issue that we've been trying to get through there. The other one should.
So adding the new subdivisions, y'all expect to provide some relief to people that are...
The new subdivision, as the attorney mentioned before, is only required to do what is a zero impact. So in other words, if you have a problem now, you're going to have a problem, the same exact problem, after the subdivision is built. Now, if it's more of a problem, that's an issue. But according to the ordinance, that they are not to make the situation worse. They are not mandated to make it better, just not to make it worse than what it is right now.
So for the residents in my vicinity, and even north of where I am, there's basically no relief in sight.
Until we get the Keystone development and that enlargement of Henderson Bayou, and that's all downstream.
Right.
To allow that water to get out.
That seems to be where the problem is, downstream
in
where I am.
our opinion, that's what we think. That's what we believe.
And David, that is where we redirected the money to the Henderson Bayou Basin, and we guys talked on it this morning, one of the engineers, that we're going to do the...
So they are widening?
They are doing the project study right now.
Oh, yeah,
So
well,
it
I was familiar with that, yeah.
Well,
And
just to
they
let
got to
you
get
know,
the downstream opened up before we can get anything from upstream getting to it, you know.
the Henderson Bayou at, again, the Keystone development, the subdivision there, they're all mandated to improve that section of Henderson Bayou, which would enlarge it, significantly enlarge it. And we're hoping that enlargement of that section will enable the water to get out a lot faster.
If it's been studied multiple times, isn't there, rather than just hoping that it's going to work, I mean, if the studies are done, isn't there any way to say, all right, this is going to work? Or do I need to tell these residents to leave?
We're in a process
I'm in a
right
position
now.
where I'm going to leave
Right.
if this continues to happen.
The actually, CDM is involved with this exact study. Earlier today, the CDM engineer for CDM stated that the Henderson Bayou project is modeling all of that area right now to see what's the problem and what would be the solutions to it. Now, we know of some things, like the Henderson Bayou, where the Keystone development is, that will help. How much, we're not sure of, it will help. But they're going to tell us how much is going to help.
Yeah.
And that's in the process, and we had a status report tonight on that, so it's ongoing.
Someone else mentioned the Rita was the 10-year flood. I've had that, and I've had that 3 times. Maybe not the volume of rain over a 10-hour period as we did in Rita, but the 5 inches in a 3-hour, 3.5, 4-hour period, and the end result was the same: water at your doorstep, water in portions of my home. So hopefully it'll work. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Any more old business? Mr. Saborn.
You got a little bit, real quick, guys. FEMA flood map. I need some help. I need some help from the board members. I need some help from administration to explain to me why we should not take action to appeal this proposed floodplain map. 30 days. I'm asking for 30 days. 30 days I want back on the agenda because I'm going to actually appeal it. But hopefully in that time someone can shed some light on me why we shouldn't. I know we sat here tonight for 2 hours talking about flooding. There's some parcels of property on these new maps that came out that don't have a problem with flooding that's being incorporated inside the new flood zone that's going to have to be required to take out flood insurance. I'm asking for some help to explain why we shouldn't appeal this. That's all I got.
I have one more. I got an update from Ms. Carla Cormier on our mitigation flood. All of Katrina's money has been used up, but we do have about $800,000 left available for readers' money on buyouts. If we got some repetitions, flooding of homes more than 3 to 4 times. If anybody's interested, there is some money available for Ascension Parish on some buyouts. I think it's up to about $800,000 left on readers of the $2.3 million that we had left. I'll give y'all each a handout, so y'all got a little update on it. And that's pretty much all I have.
Mr. Chairman, hold on. Mr. Rue, you had
I think
authorization, or did we take care of
moved
that?
on that earlier.
Yeah, Mr. Hillenspec had an agenda item, so we moved under it that time,
Okay.
that one thing.
Move to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn by Mr. Kent Shakespeare, second by Mr. Thompson. No objections? So moved.